Hi, Lucia. Hi, Gabriel. Patricia, Maddie, wow, Paola, Marina, Patricia, Lucy, Fabiana, wow. It is great. Hi, everyone. It is great to see so many of you. Thank you very much for joining us. Can we check that everything is going well technology-wise? Can you type yes in the chat box if you can hear me, if you can see me, and if you can see the slides, if you can see the presentation? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's amazing. Okay, Lithuania, Italy, Sicily, nice, very nice. Spain, Vienna, Portugal, wow, Andalusia in Spain, great. Estonia, Indonesia, wow. Madrid, Italy, France, Puglia, Padova, oh, super nice. Murcia, Sweden, Germany, wow. Latvia, Switzerland, lots of people from different places. This is great. Thank you very much for joining us. Guipúzcoa, Mexico, Estonia, Asturias, Rome, wow, fantastic. Alicante, Milan, Colombia, wow, Granada. I studied in Granada, lovely place. Seville, Canarias. Okay, well, great. Numbers are still increasing. It's already 6, so I'm going to just wait maybe a minute or two because numbers are increasing. Okay, and in the meantime, while we get started, I'm just going to go through some housekeeping. Okay. First of all, your microphone and camera have been automatically turned off, okay, because there are so many of you. But we would love to hear your ideas, your thoughts, your comments, and you can share them in the chat box, okay? Because there are so many of you from so many different places. What we have in common is that we all speak English, right? So please use English in the chat box to share your comments and your ideas. I would really like to have a very interactive session. I want this session to be as useful as possible. So I've included some questions that you kindly submitted in registration. But please feel free to ask more questions. There is a Q&A for your questions, and we will have a look at it at the end of the session and just use the chat for ideas and thoughts. The session will be recorded and we will share the link in the follow-up email, okay, that will be sent shortly. The link to the B2 First session that we gave on Tuesday will also be available in the follow-up email. Also, I would like to say that I've got my fantastic colleagues, Aurélie and Camille, with me in the chat box, and also Sarah Ellis from the Assessment Services team will join us shortly. They will be able to support you and provide you with the links that I mentioned throughout the session. In any case, we will also be sending a handout with useful links in the follow-up email. So if you cannot capture the QR codes that I have on the slides, if you cannot take all the links that we share in the chat box, please don't worry, because they will be available for you in the follow-up email. And finally, we will have a survey at the end, because we really want to hear your thoughts, to hear your ideas and what you thought about the session. So please stay until the end to answer our survey. Okay, so I think it is time to kick off. Okay, this is what we are going to be talking about today. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the C1 Advanced exam I say brief because if you are preparing for the exam, I think you are already familiar with the layout and the format. So I really want to focus on the recommendations, which I hope you find useful, and the resources. Okay, and as I said, there will be opportunity to answer questions at the end. Okay, so actually, we are going to start with a question from you, okay? Because as I said, thank you very much for submitting some questions in the registration. And one of the questions you asked me was, when was the format of the exam last reviewed? Okay, the exam was last updated in 2015. And as a result of this update, we see it in its current state. Okay, there are 4 papers. The compulsory task in the writing paper is an essay, and it is almost 4 hours. Okay, 3 hours and 55 minutes. Okay, that's the duration of the exam, and it is shorter than it used to be. Right, so now we are going to start with the reading and use of English paper. And we are going to start with a poll, okay? Just to see how much you know about the exam and just to have a bit of fun, okay? So how long do you have to complete reading and use of English? How long do you have to complete this paper? Is it 1 hour and 30 minutes? Is it 1 hour and 20 minutes? Or is it 1 hour and 15 minutes? Please type the answer, or select the answer rather. Okay, so most of you, 67%, said 1 hour and 30 minutes, which is absolutely right. Okay, so congratulations, well done. You know your exam quite well, you know this paper quite well, and yes, exactly, you've got 1 hour and 30 minutes to go through the 8 parts in the exam. Okay, 8 parts, 5 of them with a focus on reading, and then 3 of them with a focus on the use of English. There is a QR code here, which will take you to our website, the section on formats for C1 Advanced, okay, in case you want to check it and have a bit more information about the exam. Right, so now I'm going to focus on some of the parts of the exam. I'm not going to focus on all of them, first because you are familiar with the format, and second because we don't have the time. So I'm going to focus on the parts that I think could be more of an interest for you because of the complexity, or because I didn't cover them in the B2 First session, okay? You know that there are some parts which are very similar, okay, task types which are very similar in B2 First and C1 Advanced, of course, with the difference in terms of language complexity, okay? But these ones that I covered, that I will cover today, weren't mentioned in the B2 First. Right, okay, so what do we need to demonstrate in part 2? For those of you who don't know what part 2 is the open close, okay? It's the text with the gaps. Okay, so we need to show that we are aware and that we can control the grammar that we use, and there is also a focus on vocab. When we are thinking about the grammar that we need to show, well, you can see it in the blue box, right? Really, almost everything, right? Pronouns, phrasal verbs, linkers, prepositions, and so on. Okay, so grammar words mainly. Right, let's look at key aspects to bear in mind for part 2. Well, the thing is that in some cases, for some gaps, you only need to look at the immediate phrase or sentence. Okay, so having said that, super important to skim read the text before starting focusing on the gaps, okay? Why is that? Because you need to have a clear idea of what the text is about, and this is going to help you identify the word that you need in each of the gaps. So once we've done that, you will need to focus on the immediate phrase or sentence for some options. Let's look at an example taken from Test and Train. And we can see here the first paragraph. And as you can see here in the recommendation, in the light bulb, some questions test your knowledge of fixed phrases. And I have selected these because this is actually the case. Okay, here. For example, when it comes to is a phrase. Okay, and what does it mean? It means when we consider. Okay, but it is a phrase, it is a fixed phrase when it comes to something or such a thing. Okay. In other cases, you will need to read a longer chunk of text, okay? Maybe a paragraph or even the whole text. Okay, so this is the case here. So here we've got almost like a little paragraph, okay? A longer text, a longer chunk of text. Researchers found that identical twins who share the same genes tended to have the same levels of musical ability. Non-identical twins who share just 50% of the same genes were less likely to have the same level of musical talent. What do you think is the word that goes in the gap? Any ideas? Can you type them in the chat box? Okay, fantastic. However, whereas, fantastic. Okay, so yes, in this case, however, fantastic. Thank you very much. Yes, we are showing contrast. Okay, we are expressing contrast here. So fantastic. Okay, moving on now to the reading parts. And in the B2 First session, many of you asked me about how to manage your time in the reading and the use of English parts. Okay, and there was also a question that you submitted at registration, which had to do with how to address the reading part correctly, and also showing your concern that at times multiple answers seem correct. Okay, so I will have taken these two questions into account. Okay, when I took these two questions into account when I put together the session, and I'm going to answer these two questions in the next slides, not only when talking about reading, but also when talking about listening. The idea of the multiple answers, okay? But how to effectively manage your time? To manage your time, I think you need to think about what good readers do, okay? So that's why I would like to ask you, what do you think good readers do? Please type your answers in the chat box. And while you do so, I'm going to give maybe try to answer the question about how to effectively manage the time. You need to think about the types of reading sub-skills, how to read the task, okay? And then also maybe you need to think about if you want to do all the different parts as in the same order as they are in the exam, or if you want to start with some parts before, maybe the ones you feel more comfortable with, and that way you have more confidence to address the tasks that maybe you feel less confident with. So it is up to you really, but you could think about these aspects, or maybe you want to go for the tasks that are worth more marks. So it depends on you. Okay, lots of ideas. Keywords, detect keywords, skim the text to have an idea about the topic from Patricia. Try to have general idea. Skim read, understand the text. Okay. Focus on the questions from Ludovica. Okay, underline. Okay, there is a question, can you underline? Yes, you can. It is a good idea. Okay, so a lot of skimming, scanning, I think I saw it as well, understanding keywords or paying attention to keywords. Okay, yes, fantastic. Actually, this is the first thing that I had in mind, okay? At C1, we are expecting you to be able to decide on the best sub-skill to use depending on the task, depending on the purpose that you have in mind. So it is important that you decide if you need to skim, if you need to scan, if you can engage in careful reading, okay, depending on the type of the task and also on the focus. This is something that good readers are good at, okay? They are good at deciding. Also, they can work out meanings of unknown words. Which are unknown words will always be present in the text, okay? And in listenings, and they are always present. But it is important to decide first, are they important to the main message? If they are important, then we need to work out their meaning. Okay, we can try and work out what type of class of word they are, and also more or less the meaning that it may have. But if they are not important to the main message, I think we need to ignore them, okay? We are just going to forget about them and move on. Also, it is important that we understand referencing, okay? We need to understand the structure of our text. We need to think about linking devices. We need to think about pronouns. We need to think about all the different aspects that are going to make our text look as a whole, okay, as a unit. The parts of the text that are really making it coherent and cohesive. And finally, we need to be able to recognize paraphrasing. Paraphrasing, rephrasing, these are key abilities when we are talking about language, okay? When we are talking about communication. So it is very important that we don't try to find exactly the same word in the options as in the text, and that we are ready to try to identify synonyms or different ways in which we are expressing the same idea. So having said that, we are going to focus a bit more on the different types of reading. When we think about reading, maybe what we have in mind is careful reading. Okay, this reading that is linear, that is slow, okay, when we are putting all our attention into the text and we are really spending some time, okay, reading the text. But while it is true that it is always necessary, okay, at lower, at a higher levels, and then also in our real life, we also need to engage in some fast reading, depending on the purpose. Sometimes we just want to read a text and see if it's interesting for us, then we are skimming. Sometimes we just want to find the time when the film will be on or the bus will be leaving, that's scanning. And some of the times we want to engage in search reading, that's also fast reading. But in this case, we are not identifying specific words, but we are identifying topics. Okay, so it is important to take some time at the very beginning to choose the best type of reading, and this is going to help us manage our time in the C1 exam. C1 Advanced, okay, and also in real life, because we don't have the time to read all the texts in a lot of detail very carefully. That's not the point of the tasks. I see that some of you are experiencing problems with connection. If it is not, I hope it's not me, but if you see that this is still a problem, I may switch off my camera. Okay, but for the time being, I'm going to continue on camera. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for confirming. Okay, moving on. Let's focus now on part 5, reading and use of English, part 5, multiple choice. This is a screenshot of one of the tasks that you can find in the sample papers. And now we are going to look at an example from Test and Train. So we have zooming, okay, and we have taken just a paragraph and then a question. Right, so in this case, what point is made about fungi are viewed on, sorry, what point is made about how fungi are viewed in the West? And the correct answer is B, okay? Their significance has been insufficiently appreciated. How did we arrive at this? How did we decide that this is the correct answer? Well, their significance is referred to in the text as in here, okay? Fungi weren't seen as their own kingdom of life until the 1960s. Experts were put in a corner of the plant science department rather than in their own fungal science department. Okay, so as you can see here, they are talking about their significance, okay? They weren't given the importance that they deserved. So this is showing us that this is the correct answer. Of course, we are not seeing this word here, but it is being paraphrased. Now, let's look at the other options. Why are not correct? They have been considered too inaccessible to examine. Okay, only recently have technologies been available. So they were not considered. They really were inaccessible because we didn't have the technology to investigate them. So that's why this is incorrect. Their diversity has been ignored. Again, it's not that scientists have ignored their diversity, it's that they weren't aware of it because they didn't have the tools to investigate it. And finally, the idea of outdated. It is not mentioned. There are only 2 reasons given and none of them has to do with this. Okay, so for this reason, this is the correct answer. But as you can see, there is a lot of paraphrasing, okay? There is a lot of ideas expressed in a different way in this part of the test. And you need to be ready for that. Moving on to part 8, multiple matching. What are we testing here? Well, we are testing here your ability to understand detail, opinion, specific information, and also attitude. Let's look at the task. Key aspects to bear in mind. First, read the questions on the left and underline keywords or concepts. Okay, this is something that you mentioned in the chat box, right? The idea of keywords, of identifying, of underlying keywords and concepts. Okay, so yes, it is a good idea to identify them. Then skimming and scanning are key sub-skills here, what I told you, okay, fast reading sub-skills. Because we will not have the time to read the text in a lot of detail again and again. Then also bear in mind that sometimes a question may consist of 2 parts. For example, someone being surprised at being confronted by a difficult situation. Okay, so it is possible that in different parts you will see someone being surprised, but not because they have been confronted by a difficult situation. And some people being confronted by a difficult situation, but not being surprised. Okay, so what I mean is that you need to take into account that the 2 parts need to be covered. Skimming is reading the text quickly to get a general idea of what the text is about. Then what we said again about paraphrasing, don't choose an option just because there is a word in the question that matches a word in the text. Okay, we don't want you to be like spotting words. Okay, no, we are looking for ideas. Okay, so you need to be ready to recognize paraphrasing. And then once you have identified one of the options that you think is the correct one, then engage in careful reading. Okay, and this is where you need to really see if the match is really accurate in terms of meaning. Okay, so first, fast reading, then careful reading to decide. This is the text. Okay, sorry, this is the task. Okay, and we are given some information at the beginning, okay, with some context. And here, Again, keywords. We're going to see people giving advice. We're going to read about people giving advice, so recommendations. Be ready for this type of function. About starting a career, so professional topics here as well. Which consultant makes the following statements? Right, we have selected one of the options, and we know that the correct answer is consultant D. This person is talking about keep your final objective in mind when you are planning to change jobs. Now, can you tell me which words in the option consultant D are matched to keep in mind, final objective, planning, and change jobs? Okay, James, reaching your goal, fantastic. Dream job, definite strategy for reaching your goal, strategy from Nicholas, fantastic. Thank you, strategy from Sylvia, fantastic. Fantastic. You need to get your dream job, strategy. Okay, fantastic. Well done, people. So change jobs, move around, move on. Keep in mind, think about final objective, your goal, planning strategy. There you go. Okay, so you are ready for that, right? Because you see that really there is a different way in which we are expressing the same idea. Excellent, well done. Okay, so now moving on to some questions before going to the next part of the talk, of the session. During the exam, do we have extra time to fill the answer sheets? Okay, this information is in the instructions. Okay, so you must complete the answer sheets within the time limit. Okay, so maybe it is a good idea that when you finish a part, then transfer your answers. Okay, so you don't have to do it all at once at the end. But I leave that in your hands. You need to decide on your strategy. But remember that this information will be in the instructions, so don't worry. It will be there for you. Okay, moving on. There was a question about read and improve. When you registered, okay, you submitted this question. And what is read and improve? Well, it is a tool, it is a platform that is in development. Okay, so we are working on it to make it better. But it is a platform that gives you the opportunity to access texts and select texts based on the CFR level. Okay, so you can see here the screenshot. We selected B2. You can also select C1, and you can get the text here. And you can hover over words and select words, and you will see them in the text, and we will tell you the word class. We will also tell you the words they collocate with, the word it collocates with, sorry, and you will also be able to write a summary, and you will be given some feedback in terms of the writing quality, okay, and also how relevant it was to the task. Okay, as I said, this is a platform that is in development. Okay, so sometimes it may not be available because they are working on it, but it is just a resource for you to have. Okay, that's why I wanted, and there was also a question about it, so that's why I wanted to include it. Bear with us, we are trying to make it better, but in the meantime, I think it is still useful for you. Okay, moving on to writing, and there is a poll here for you. Please have a look at it and let's see what you think. Should I complete the writing paper in pencil? Yes or no? Assuming that you are taking the exam paper-based. Okay, 73% of you said no. Okay, and this is correct. Okay, no, you should write clearly in pen. Okay, again, this will be in the instructions. Okay, so in the writing paper, 2 parts. Part 1, an essay, compulsory task. Part 2, a choice of 3 tasks, okay? 220 to 260 words, okay? Again, something for you to bear in mind, these are recommendations. This is a guideline, okay? Based on our experience of the scripts that have been produced, the different texts that have been produced by candidates for a very long time. But if you write fewer words or more words, we are not going to be penalizing you. First of all, because our marking is positive. We try to give you marks for what you can do well, okay, and what you can show. And then because we don't want you to be counting words, okay? This is a recommendation, so you have an idea in mind. But please don't waste your time counting words. That's also in terms of time management. There was a question from you about whether you had to read any literary works in preparation for your exams. Reading is always a great way to learn English, so I strongly recommend it. But only at B2 First for Schools, students are given the opportunity to write a text about a set text, okay? This is not the case for C1 Advanced. You are only given 3 tasks to choose from, and none of them include a set text, okay? So in this case, there is no set text in the C1 Advanced. Okay, thinking about the writing process, how can we approach the writing process and the task? 3 stages: pre-writing, writing, and reviewing, okay? There is no C1 for Schools, Lucia, okay? We only have the C1 Advanced because of its nature. We think it is the topics and the what is required at this level is C1 Advanced, no for Schools version. Okay, so going back to the writing process, 3 stages: pre-writing, writing, and reviewing. Please don't think that you're wasting your time engaging with the pre-writing task and the pre-writing stage and the reviewing stage. It is very valuable time, okay? And you are using it well. If you are using it to plan who will be reading the text, the purpose, why you are writing, and the aspects that you need to take into account, okay? These are key questions that you need to think about in 1-2 minutes to decide on the ideas that you want to include. Once you've got that clear, the writing process will be easier in the sense that you will have very clear what you need to include. And you can concentrate on whether you are including main ideas, which ones are them. Can you add some supporting detail to develop your ideas further? Have you included straightforward and complex ideas? We will talk about this in a minute. Are you connecting your ideas well? Is your text coherent? And then when we finish, it is good to you maybe devote, I don't know, 5 minutes or so to review your text, to check the variety of language that you are using. If you are also adding some less common vocabulary, if you are also including some complex grammar, if you have covered all the task requirements, if there are any problems that you notice, okay? This is not for the exam. I think this is good practice in general for real life. I think that if you were to submit an email, send an email to apply for a very important job, I think you would read that email once, twice, 3 times at least. So please do the same in the exam situation. It is just good practice in general. Okay, let's see, moving on to the part 1, the essay, okay, and planning. As you can see, there is quite a lot. taking, okay, quite a lot to understand before you start writing. So it is a good idea to prepare, to become familiar, okay, with the task. And I suggest that you do something like this. Okay, this is good for your preparation. The pink box is going to give you some information about the topic, the context, okay? Why are you writing? Then the blue box includes the 3 elements from the discussion that are provided. You only have to choose 2 of them. In the purple box, you can find some opinions that have been shared during the discussion. You can decide whether to include them or not. If you do, please remember that you should use your own words as far as possible. And then the orange box is going to give you the instructions, okay? Very clear what you need to do. Discuss 2 areas, express your opinions, give reasons to support them, okay? So very clear information there. Right, so once we have very clear the task requirements are, important to think about the purpose, the reason why you're writing, and how to organize your ideas. Okay, so why are we writing? We want to highlight relevant issues. We want to add supporting ideas for our main ideas. We want to discuss, we need to use our own words, okay? So these are key aspects for you to take into account. And what do good essays look like? They are well organized, they have an introduction, clear development, conclusion, and at this level, we are expecting a range of vocabulary and structures. A few slides ago, we were discussing, or I told you about straightforward and complex ideas. What is this? What is a straightforward and what is a complex idea? Well, complex ideas are a bit more abstract, okay, than the straightforward ideas. They cover a wide subject area, and this implies that you will probably need more sophisticated, more complex linguistic resources to express them. Okay, here you can see an example. This is actually an example from B2 first, okay, but as you can see, the person got band 5, so actually they reached C1 level. And you can see what we mean by straightforward and complex ideas. Straightforward in green, complex ideas a bit more abstract in yellow. I strongly recommend that you use these guides. These are guides for teachers, but I think you can, at this level especially, you can benefit quite a lot from them because they explain what we mean by this terminology that we use and that we need to use because this is information that is relevant to the examiners and the markers, okay? So there you go. Think about whether your ideas are only simple, straightforward, or whether you are also including some complex ones. Review, communicative achievement. We are going to think about the communicative achievement in the review, in the context of a review. Here we want to see that you are engaging the reader, okay, that the text flows nicely, that we are interested, that we are engaged in the text. How can you do it? Here you can have some examples, okay? Using a natural and confident style and addressing the reader directly. This is going to make your text read well. And then organization, and for that we are going to use a report. Here you can see that the text is well organized, it is coherent, but there are still some problems, okay? There are some awkward expressions, okay? And the text is really not up to the C1 standard, okay? So you need to think about that. Am I writing at C1 level? Because you may be writing well enough, but are you writing at C1 level? This is important. Okay, where can I find practice? Reading, I told you, yes, reading is key, but we also need to try and keep a record of the vocabulary that we come across when we are reading, so we learn it. What does knowing a word mean? What do you think? What is it? In your, what idea do you have in mind when you know? Do you know this word? Yes, I know it. Okay, Cristina says how to use it. Understanding the meaning and usage. Fantastic. Using context. Fantastic. Express it. Okay, express it well. Fantastic. Okay, yeah. Meaning, how to use it. Yes, for sure. Do you know all its forms? Do you know how to build related words? Do you know when is it appropriate? Do you know how it relates to other words, how it collocates? Can you spell it? How is it pronounced? Are there any grammar restrictions? Okay, so maybe at lower levels, we're going to think about if we can recognize it and if we can spell it. But as we go to higher levels, there are other aspects that we need to bear in mind. And how can we demonstrate all the vocabulary that we know? Well, rephrasing, yes, trying to express our ideas in different ways. Using synonyms, okay, among other resources, and aiming high. Okay, we want to see that learners at this level can use less frequent vocabulary, less common vocabulary, more complex grammar. So we want you to be ambitious, to aim high, okay? And of course, there will be problems, okay? We understand that, but as long as they don't impede communication, it should be fine. And reviewing. If you want some guidelines for reviewing, please check these QR codes, because here you will have access to these questions, something that you can use in preparation for the exam while you are learning English, okay? And hopefully when it comes to the exam day, these will be automatic and you can check these questions mentally quite quickly. And if you want further practice, write and improve. If you're familiar with this platform, can you share some feedback? If you're not familiar, well, you can choose different tasks at different levels. You can type in your answer and you can get instant feedback in terms of content and also at word, phrase, and sentence level. Okay, and you can also get an idea in terms of the CFR level of your text. Moving on to listening. Okay, and now types of listening. When we think about listening, the same as with reading, different types of listening for different purposes, for main points, for gist, to follow an argument, and so and so. Okay, so you really need to think about your reason for listening and choose the best approach. As you can see in the listening exam, we have the different parts with a different focus, okay? Because we want to try and test a wide range of listening sub-skills, the listening sub-skills which are relevant to the CFR levels of the exam. Okay, you've got 40 minutes, and this includes 5 minutes to transfer your answers. Listening part 1, multiple choice, how to approach it. Read the questions before you listen. Manage your time well. Use the time that you have before listening to read the questions. Listen to the whole extract carefully. Think about the fact that maybe the questions may not be in sequence. And just remember, don't just choose an option because it contains words and phrases that you have heard. And what should you consider? The purpose, the opinions, gist, agreement, or disagreement. Let's look at an example. The audio script, this is taken from Test and Train. The audio script is not available in the task, but you can download it, okay? So it is within the platform. Here we've got 3 options. And what is the correct option? B. the person wants a new working environment, okay? He wants a complete change of seeing, getting a fresh perspective, and he wants to experience it, okay? So he wants to see how they operate, okay? The different team operates. Why is A not the correct option? Because it's being a demanding academic year? No, it's being fairly stress-free year. And he wants to enhance his future job prospects? No, he thinks he can worry about that later. Okay, and yes, Martina, I will be talking about speaking very, very soon. Okay, key aspects to bear in mind in part 4, okay, listening part 4, the multiple matching. There are 5 speakers, as you can see. There is a thematic link. In this case, they are talking about changing the jobs. There are 2 parallel multiple matching tasks, but with different with a different focus. Okay, task 1 is the reason why they changed jobs, or they want to change jobs, and the task 2 is has to do with the feelings, how they feel about their new job. Okay, then the correct option has to be chosen from a list of 8. Okay, so you need to bear that in mind also. Resources to develop listening skills. Learning resources like test and train with material at the right level, audio script, recommendations, and practice. Then authentic material, wide range of accents, maybe not exactly at your level, maybe a bit more challenging, variety of topics, maybe you don't have access to the audio script, so you can choose. But I think it is important to have a variety of resources, to use a variety of resources to learn English, because by learning English, you will be preparing for the exam. Speaking, okay, time for speaking with a poll. Okay, and let's see. In the speaking exam, my partner's performance will influence the mark I get. There are 2 examiners in the room, but only one of them will speak to me and manage the test. And the more I speak, the better, even if I don't let my partner speak. What do you think? Okay, there are 2 examiners in the room. Okay, fantastic. Yes, 94% of you chose this option. This is good news. You know well the exam again, and you know what to do. Fantastic. Okay, so speaking 4 parts, 15 minutes, 2 candidates. So you have an interaction with a peer, okay, a person who is, let's say, at the same level. Okay, so it activates a different type of interaction, and then 2 examiners. So you've got very thorough assessment, and you can also interact with a person who is not like your peer. Okay, so they will have these will activate different type of interaction. Okay, what should we do here? We need to show our ability to communicate, okay, at C1 level, and communicate in bold and super important. And here I wanted to draw your attention to the progression from B2 to C1, okay? And let's see what the difference between what you need to do at B2 and what you need to do at B1, at C1, sorry. We see that at B2, in terms of grammar, we can attempt some complex grammar, okay? We try to use it. At C1, we need to use a variety of simple and complex grammar, okay? So we are not only trying, we need to use it, and we need to use a variety of simple and some complex grammar. Vocabulary, we want to see a range, a variety of appropriate vocabulary in familiar and unfamiliar topics. Okay, at B2, we were only talking about familiar topics. Discourse management, hesitation, very little, whereas at B2, some hesitation. At C1, clear organization of ideas. This is not present here, okay? Although we include some range of cohesive devices, so there is organization. And discourse management at C1 includes discourse markers. These are not included here at B2. Pronunciation, we see generally at B2. This is gone at C1. Okay, so intonation is appropriate, stress is accurately placed, and so on. Interactive communication. At C1, we want to see how you link your contributions to those of other speakers, and we assume that you don't need support, okay? At B2, okay, very little support. Here, we think that you can maintain and develop the interaction and negotiate towards an outcome. Okay, so as you can see, there is a bit, okay, of progression. Makes sense because we are moving from B2 to C1. Okay, 10 minutes to go. Okay, so we are nearly at the end, but still we will have time for questions. In terms of the language, speculation is key, okay, becomes relevant at higher levels. So look like, modal verbs, might, may, could, adding it's possible, it is likely, okay. This is going to make our language a bit more sophisticated, a bit more complex, and it is a good idea that you try and speculate, okay, when you are talking in the speaking exam. Because we do it, okay, as well in real world, I think. What do good candidates do in part 2? This is relevant for part 2 and most of it for the rest of the exam. Make the most of the English. Good candidates make the most of the English they know, okay? So show off all the English that you know. Show us, okay, what you can do. Manage with what they've got, okay? Don't worry if you cannot think of that word that you wanted to use. Manage with the vocabulary, with the resources that you've got. Extend your answers where appropriate. Don't get stuck, okay? Don't just like block and don't say anything. No, find a way to express yourself, okay? Paraphrase. Keep a balance between fluency and accuracy, okay? We want the flow of the conversation to be natural, the flow of the speech to be natural. And if you see that you've made a mistake, okay, we'll do it, right? When we've seen that we have made a mistake, we go back, we correct it, and we move on. And try to maintain the flow for as long as the task lasts. This includes a lot of preparation, okay? Make sure you know how long a minute feels so you can maintain the flow, because it is true that restarting is quite difficult. And active listening. Okay, listening is key for in the speaking. Maybe you didn't think about that, but it is. And also in real life, of course. So listen carefully to the examiner so you understand well what you have to do, and also to your partner. Listen and react to what your partner has said, okay? So use body language, okay? Look at each other in the conversation. Make eye contact, okay? Nod in agreement to show that you are listening, to show that you are interested. This is going to make a very positive impact on the atmosphere and is going to help you communicate better, I think. So really this is again good manners. I think it is good practice in general, and it is good also to show this in the exam. And it is maybe something that you don't think about when you are nervous, but bear it in mind. Part 3, interaction. What we said, make eye contact, face your partner when it's the time of the conversation. Respond before moving on, okay? So if your partner has said something, respond to that. As you said, okay, I agree, or not sure I entirely agree with you, but okay, so make sure you respond. Take turns, okay? Don't go solo. In part 3, we want to see how you interact with your partner. And then when you finish, make sure you prompt your partner to take over. Okay, so what do you think? Do you agree? What's your view? Okay, try to discuss the ideas together. Okay, you are in that together. And of course, think about ways to express agreement, disagreement, negotiate, how you can expand your ideas, how you can buy time if this word doesn't come. Okay, how can I buy time? What type of fillers, what kind of words can I use to make my speaking sound natural? But how can I just buy some time to think about what I'm going to say next? Think about all these and bear it in mind. And we're going to finish with a question from you before moving on to more resources. Does anything happen in the speaking part if we are short by 1 or 2 seconds? Try to think about this. Positive marking. We're giving you marks for what you can do. Okay, so try to speak for as long as you can. Practice, okay? Practice so you know how long 1 minute or 2 minutes feel. Okay, this is going to help you feel better. And try to show the English you know. This is what we are interested in, okay? That we see how varied, how the range of vocabulary, the complexity of your language. All these are the aspects that we will be looking for. Resources. I can recommend this resource enough. Speaking Examiners, talking about what good candidates do, and then the different guides that we have been mentioning throughout the session. Information for candidates. If you have further questions, please check it out. Eva, what if they cut you off? Okay, the examiner, when you have the time that you had is up, okay, they will say thank you. Fantastic. That's it. Don't be put off by that. It is they need to manage time, okay, and they need to move on to different parts of the test. So it is perfectly fine. Try to continue talking until they say thank you. Test and Train, the learning resource for you to use in maybe the weeks leading up to your exam if you want further practice. And as you can see, as you have seen throughout the session, it is quite complete. It includes recommendations, practice, audio scripts. So if you're not familiar with it, check it out. If you have special requirements, please check out our website. There are many possibilities, and also communicate it to your exam center. They will be able to give you the best recommendations, but they need to be fully informed. How much time do we need to prepare for the test? And here you can see what researchers, what experts say, okay? It depends, basically. It depends, 300 to 400 hours of study. We also have instructions hours, but it is true that higher levels require more time and more intensive preparation. It also depends on how long you can spend preparing for your exam on your own. Okay, so there are a lot of factors that you need to take into account, how long you have been learning English in the past. So a lot of factors, but this is just an idea for you. How much time for the exam? Almost 4 hours. Can you go to the toilet? Yes, you can. Can you drink water? Yes, you can. Actually, you can take a plastic bottle of water, clear one, okay? So, and this information is in the QR code that you can see here. Okay, time for your questions. Okay, super quickly, I'm going to go through some of your questions here. Okay, there was a question about how long does it take to pass from B2 to C1. I hope you get an idea of what from what I've said. Okay, but probably yes, at least more than than 180 teaching hours, but it depends on your previous level of English and how much you can engage with English outside the class. Listening using headphones. It depends on your exam center. Okay, if you are taking a computer-based exam, you usually wear headphones, but it is something for you to check with your exam center. Emma, you were asking about the list of what to bring in the exam. You will access it is this one. You will be able to access the recording, okay? It will be sent to you in the follow-up email, and this information is also available on our website, but hopefully you have been able to capture the QR code. The best way to learn for the use of English, reading, reading and reflecting on what you are reading, reflecting on the language you come across. I think there is no better way of preparing for use of English than reading and having this reflective attitude when you are, when you come across a word that you haven't seen before. And then when you are writing as well and you are listening, everything comes to reflecting on the language you come across, and then also receiving the feedback, okay, and see if you have used the words correctly and accurately, okay, and in the right context. In the certificates, you get a score for the individual skills, yes, and you also get an overall score. Okay, so this is we want the information, the information, the results to be as useful for you as possible. So we are giving you a score for each individual skill, so you can see how you were doing and maybe the aspects that you need to focus a bit more on, and then also an overall score. Do Cambridge certificates expire? They don't, okay, they don't expire, they don't have a date. However, it is up to recognizing institutions to have a specific position on that, okay? So it depends. I think that the best thing you can do is check with the institution that you want your certificate, to recognize your certificate, and check with them, okay? But our certificates don't expire for the CQs. If you go over the limit of words, we are not going to be counting the words, okay? So if you write more words, the problem is that you may include repetitive ideas, that you may add irrelevant information, and these will have an impact, for example, on content or communicative achievement, because it will be a bit more confusing to read your text. But we don't penalize you. Remember, positive marking. You are also asking me whether you can sit C2 directly if you have taken B2 and not C1. It is up to you, really, okay? You don't have to take the level before to take the following level, okay? So it is up to you, up to your level, what you feel you are ready for, okay? So if you feel that you have been working on improving your English, learning English quite a lot for the last years, and you feel that you are ready for C2, give it a try. If you want to use the sample papers on our website to get an idea of how you are doing, and then decide if you want to go for C2 or for C1. Okay. There is a question about correction fluid, and no, you cannot use it. If you made a mistake in the writing, you just cross it over, okay, like as neatly as possible. But yes, no, that's the only thing that you can do, using your pen, and maybe cross it, cross the word that you don't want to use. Okay, there are our sample papers on our website include the key. Okay, so you will be able to check your answers and see how well you are doing. I think it's time to go, more or less. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the poll, okay, because we